Most men think that understanding a woman means asking her endless questions. They believe that by probing, investigating, and dissecting her words, they can reach her core. But here's the truth: most of a woman's pain isn't in her words, it's not in her answers, it's in her silence, it's in the moments she doesn't speak. And if you want to truly discover what's hurting her, if you want to understand her without making her feel interrogated, you have to learn a different language, a silent one. You must learn to feel instead of ask, observe instead of pry, sense instead of assume, because her pain hides in the quiet places. It hides in the way she avoids eye contact when she used to look at you for too long. It hides in the way her laugh feels forced, like she's trying to convince herself she's okay. It hides in the way she gives you short replies, not because she's angry, but because she's drowning inside and doesn't want to pull you under. Her pain doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers through a changed energy. And if you're the kind of man who's too busy, too distracted, too surface level, you'll miss it every single time. But if you're the man who is still present and grounded, you'll feel it. Not because she told you, but because you noticed. You see, most women don't want to explain their pain, not because they don't want to heal, but because they're tired of explaining themselves to people who don't really listen. They want to be felt, not questioned. They want to be understood, not analyzed. They want your energy, not your interrogation. And that's where the deep masculine presence comes in, because real presence is rare, it's powerful, it's healing, and it doesn't require a single word when a man becomes present with a woman, not to fix her, not to poke at her pain, but simply to witness it. She feels something almost sacred. It's like finally being seen without being examined, like finally being safe without being interrogated. This is what separates boys from men. This is what separates noise from depth. This is what separates distraction from intimacy. Most men will never learn this because they're addicted to words, addicted to control, addicted to logical answers in an emotional world. But women are not logic machines, they are emotional oceans. And if you want to dive deep into her world, you don't need a map. You need stillness. Stillness to feel the tides of her moods. Stillness to sense the storm before it shows. Stillness to recognize the sadness in her smile, the tension in her posture, the fatigue in her joy. This is how you discover a woman's pain without asking. You slow down, you breathe, you connect with your body, and then you pay attention to hers. You watch the way her energy shifts when you bring up certain topics. You notice the patterns, what makes her go quiet, what makes her distant, what makes her smile fade. You listen, not to her words, but to the tone behind them. I'm fine doesn't mean she's fine. I don't want to talk about it doesn't mean she doesn't want to be understood. I just need space. Sometimes means I need someone who can hold space for me. You don't need to pressure her to open up. Just be the kind of man who sees what others ignore. Be the kind of man who notices the unspoken. Be the kind of man who holds her pain with silence, not interrogation. And here's the secret. When a woman feels that you can sense her pain without her having to voice it, something magical happens. She starts to trust you. Not just with her stories, but with her heart. Because finally she's not alone with her burden. Finally, someone sees the weight she's been carrying without needing to weigh her down with questions. This kind of presence is rare. It requires a different level of maturity. You must become emotionally literate not just with her, but with yourself. Because if you can't face your own pain without numbing or escaping, how can you ever sit with hers? So start with you. When was the last time you sat in silence and listened to your own heart? When was the last time you noticed your own emotional patterns, your own unspoken wounds? The deeper you go into yourself, the more capable you are of recognizing what's unspoken in her. Women are mirrors, they reflect your depth or your shallowness. They respond to your nervous system. If you're anxious, distracted, or emotionally unavailable, she won't open. She can't. But when you become the calm in her storm, when you offer her your grounded presence, her heart softens, her walls lower, her pain comes to the surface, not because you asked, but because she feels safe enough to reveal it. You become the space where she can breathe again. And that's what she truly craves. Not a man who has all the answers. Not a man who's constantly asking, what's wrong? But a man who can sit in the fire of her emotions without flinching, without fixing, without fleeing. Let me tell you something most men don't understand. The moment you need her to tell you what's wrong is the moment she loses trust. Because now she has to do the work for both of you. She has to feel the pain and explain it. She has to survive her wound and educate you about it. That's exhausting. But when you do the emotional lifting by paying attention, you give her something rare. You give her rest. And that's why she'll lean into you. That's why she'll trust you. That's why she'll stay. Not because you chased her. Not because you solved her problems. But because you made her feel seen without her having to perform. This is emotional intelligence. This is masculine leadership. This is what it means to be a man who understands the soul of a woman. It doesn't come from textbooks. It doesn't come from pickup lines. It comes from depth, from self awareness, from stillness. So the next time you're with a woman you care about, try this. Don't ask her 10 questions. Just be there, fully, quietly, intentionally. Watch her eyes, watch her breath. Notice the difference in how she hugs you, how she touches you, how she holds space around you. Feel the shift in her energy, even if it's subtle. Ask yourself, what is she not saying? And instead of asking her to explain it, just hold her. Stay close. Stay present. Because in that silence, she heals. In that presence, she relaxes. And in that moment, she realizes, I don't have to explain myself to him. He just knows. And that, my friend, is power. Not the loud kind, not the showy kind, but the quiet, grounded, divine masculine power that every woman is secretly craving. The power to hold space, the power to see without staring, to hear without questioning, to understand without needing words. Become that man. And you'll never have to ask a woman about her pain, because you'll already feel it. And better yet, you'll know how to hold it with strength, with softness, and with honor. Not because she asked you to, but because that's who you are. And in a world full of men who listen only to respond, be the one who listens to understand, to feel, to witness. Because sometimes the greatest act of love is not asking, what's wrong, but being so deeply attuned that she never has to say it. A woman's emotional pain is rarely voiced directly. It's revealed through subtle behavioral shifts, emotional energy, and nonverbal cues that only the truly present can detect. Part of the reason is because women are deeply intuitive beings. Their emotional lives are layered, nuanced, and often too complex to be summed up in words. When a woman is in pain, she doesn't always announce it. She embodies it. It shows in her movements, in the way her eyes dim when you bring up certain topics, in the way her body tenses slightly when something triggers an old wound. It's in her pauses, in the words she doesn't say, in the fake smile she gives so you don't worry. And unless you are truly present, grounded in the moment, and emotionally aware, you'll miss these signals. You'll think everything is fine, you'll assume she's okay, but she's not. She's hurting quietly. Women, especially strong women, often don't share their pain outright because the world has conditioned them to be strong, to hold it together, to not burden others. Many have learned that when they do express their pain, they're met with defensiveness, invalidation, or quick fix solutions that make them feel unheard and unseen. So over time, they stop voicing it. They start sending signals instead, hoping someone, just one person, will be attuned enough to catch them. You want to discover her pain. Don't listen harder. Feel deeper. You have to train yourself to become aware of her emotional atmosphere, not just her spoken language. Just like you can sense when a storm is coming even if the sky is still blue. There's a certain pressure, a certain stillness in the air. You can sense a woman's inner storm if you're tuned in. You'll notice that her energy feels slightly withdrawn, her responses are shorter, her laugh lacks that spontaneous joy it usually carries. You'll pick up on the way she pulls her hand away a little quicker than usual, or how she hesitates before answering a simple question. These are not accidents, these are emotional breadcrumbs. Most men miss them because they're too distracted by their phones, their egos, their own unresolved issues. But if you slow down and truly observe her, not with judgment, not with pressure, but with quiet reverence, you'll begin to feel her world. And once you're inside that emotional world, you'll start to understand her without her needing to translate herself into words. This is the power of presence. True presence isn't just being in the same room. It's your nervous system syncing with hers. It's your energy saying, I'm here, I'm safe, I'm listening to more than just your words. When a woman feels that from you, when she senses that you can pick up on her unspoken pain, something inside her begins to relax. The tension she's been holding onto for days, weeks, or even years starts to soften, not because she spoke about it, but because she was finally felt. And that, right there, is how you begin to truly discover a woman's pain without asking questions. Not through analysis, not through fixing, but through a deep, calm, grounded awareness that sees beyond the mask into her truth. To truly discover her pain without asking, a man must master emotional awareness, attunement, and the art of silent observation. This isn't something you learn in a textbook. It's not a checklist of psychological tricks or a communication hack you pick up from a podcast. It's a deeper, internal evolution. It's a quiet strength, a spiritual discipline that requires you to be more than just a good listener. You must become a feeler of emotions, a witness to energy, a reader of silence. Emotional awareness begins with you. You cannot tune into someone else's pain if you are completely disconnected from your own. If you've spent your whole life running from discomfort, suppressing your sadness, numbing your fear, or denying your anger, then how will you ever recognize those same energies in her? You won't. You'll overlook them. You'll misinterpret them. Or worse, you'll get uncomfortable when she feels deeply, because you haven't learned how to feel deeply yourself. So the first step is self-awareness. You must build a relationship with your own emotional landscape. Understand your triggers, sit with your wounds, learn the difference between reacting and responding. When you develop this emotional fluency within, you naturally become more attuned to the emotions of others, especially the quiet, subtle ones. Attunement is the next level. It's the ability to match her emotional frequency without her saying a single word. It means sensing her emotional state just by entering the room, feeling the shift in her vibe without needing an explanation. You walk in, she doesn't even look up, but you know something's different, something's off. Her energy is heavier, her smile is dimmer. She may be laughing with her mouth, but her soul feels distant. Attunement is being with her without hovering. It's giving her space without being absent. It's understanding that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply be near, with asking, without fixing, without filling the silence with noise. That brings us to the art of silent observation. This is where many men fail, not because they don't care, but because they haven't cultivated the patience to see. They move too fast, they want answers too quickly. But a woman's emotional pain isn't always available on demand, it unfolds gradually. She might test the waters first, offer tiny cues to see if you'll catch them. And if you don't, she'll retreat even further. But if notice that the way she's holding her coffee mug is tighter, and usual if you notice she hasn't played her favorite song in days, if you notice that the way she said, "I'm okay," didn't sound like okay at all, you pass a test. A silent one. A sacred one. Silent observation is about presence without pressure. It's about seeing her with your whole being, not just your eyes. You become a quiet student of her energy. You begin to recognize what calms her, what triggers her, what lifts her, and what weighs her down. You see, a woman's heart speaks in a different language. It's not just verbal, it's energetic, emotional, embodied. And when you as a man rise into that level of conscious masculinity, when you become the still observer, the emotionally intelligent protector of her unspoken truth, she feels it. And the walls she's built begin to soften. Not because you asked the right question, but because you created the right atmosphere. A safe one, a slow one, a grounded one. In that space, her pain rises, not in chaos, but in peace. Not in drama, but in trust. Because now, she doesn't feel like she's carrying it alone. She doesn't feel like she has to explain every detail to be understood. You've met her where most never even look, beneath the surface. And that's when real connection begins. Not through interrogation, but through quiet, powerful presence. When you understand her pain without her needing to explain it, you offer her what most people can't: emotional safety, healing presence, and masculine depth. You see, most people operate at the surface. They wait for words before they offer support. They respond only when something is said out loud, when pain becomes too obvious to ignore. But by then, it's often too late. The wound has already deepened. The trust has already started to fade. The wall has already been built. But when you sense her pain before it's spoken, when you recognize her inner shift, her quiet act, her emotional exhaustion without her needing to spell it out, you become something powerful, something sacred. You become the rare presence she never knew she needed, but now can't forget. Because here's what you may not realize: it for a woman, constantly explaining her pain can feel like a second burden. Not only is she hurting, but now she has to teach someone how she's hurting. She has to put her emotions into neat little boxes, choose the right words, risk being misunderstood, or worse, dismissed. And that is exhausting. That is lonely. That is why so many women choose silence over struggle. But when you understand without her asking, when you feel what she feels without her having to guide you, what you're giving her is not just attention, you're giving her relief. Relief from having to perform. Relief from carrying her emotional weight alone. Relief from feeling unseen in a world that only notices when things fall apart. This is emotional safety. It's the kind of safety that makes her body soften around you. That makes her breath slow down when she's in your arms. That makes her eyes fill with tears. Not because she's breaking down, but because she finally feels like she doesn't have to be strong all the time. And here's the thing: this kind of safety isn't built with words, it's built with energy, with consistent grounded presence, with the kind of masculine stillness that tells her, without speaking, "I see you, I feel you, I've got you, and you don't have to explain yourself for me to stay close." That's healing presence. The ability to just be there when she's unraveling, to hold her when she doesn't even know how to cry anymore, to make her feel more at peace in your silence than she's ever felt in someone else's conversation. Most men rush to fix, to advise, to solve. But a woman doesn't always need a solution. Sometimes she just needs a space where she's allowed to fall apart without being judged, where her tears don't make someone uncomfortable, where her silence isn't mistaken for moodiness, but understood as sacred communication. That space, that silent, sacred, emotionally intelligent space, is your masculine depth. And masculine depth doesn't come from age or experience. It comes from intention, from doing the inner work to become still within yourself, from facing your own emotional chaos so you can hold hers without being shaken, from being so routed in your own presence that she feels anchored just by being near you. This is what separates shallow attraction from soulful connection. This is what makes a woman open, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and completely. Because when she realizes that she doesn't have to fight for your attention, when she feels that you notice her subtle pain, even when she hides it well, when she senses that you're emotionally strong enough to hold her pain with her, not run from it, not deny it, not try to fix it right away, that's when she gives you something no amount of charm, money, or looks can earn her trust. And from that trust comes something even deeper: her heart, her vulnerability, her truth. So understand this: your ability to see her without her performing is rare. Your ability to feel her without her speaking is powerful. And your ability to be a healing presence without pressure is unforgettable. When you master this, she won't just remember you, she'll feel you long after you're gone. Because you didn't just touch her body or her mind, you touched her soul.